All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
All right, and today we got a lot to talk about. We're actually really excited. Andrew Yang's closing statements at the debates are now being heralded as a, quote, mic drop moment. There's also a lot of steam and a couple of apps to get Andrew Yang some cash and some other assorted controversies floating around the interwebs. Cody, why don't you tell us what's going on?
Okay, I guess first of all, there was an article that was passed around a lot yesterday, I saw, and it was a Forbes article, essentially an editorial from how I'm reading it. But it said why Andrew Yang's Democratic debate closing statement was a mic drop performance. So I thought it'd be fun to go through this and kind of look and see exactly what they are talking about, what made it a mic drop performance, and we'll see. I don't want to toot my own horn, but we'll see how right both of us might have been a little bit going through here. Now, for those of you who were not familiar with it, it was at the end of a slog of a debate. I'll give you credit if you didn't watch it. But towards the end of the fifth Democratic presidential debate, I was tempted to turn off the television and skip the boring closing. There we go, right away. Yeah, exactly. Then I heard Andrew Yang. For me, his closing statement was anything but predictable and boring. It was actually refreshing and riveting. Ranked dead last for debate talk time, even this person who was, I doubt, a Yang ganger who's going to turn the TV off before he spoke. Dead last for debate talk time. His 147-minute closing statement represented more than 25% of his overall.
I never thought of it that way.
That's even more shocking. Remove his opening and closing remarks. He basically talked for like 3 minutes in the middle of the debate.
Jeez.
As a professional speaker, I couldn't help reflecting on his performance through that lens. Connecting with an audience is a universally critical skill for virtually all leaders, and I just watched Andrew Yang give a masterclass to some of the nation's best and brightest political veterans. I had not read every word of the intro. I mostly read the points. Very glowing praise here. Admittedly, Yang may not be the most sophisticated, elegant orator, I spoke too soon, by some standards, but his presentation style arguably may be the most effective with real mass audiences. Let's examine 5 lessons that can be extracted from Yang's somewhat unconventional...
Wild things happen when you cut your teeth in the private sector and not the public one.
Yeah, well, but again, the reason I wanted to even read through all that, because like I said, when I read this article to myself, I kind of skimmed over those bits, is because I wanted to highlight this is not someone who's like, I've been following Yang for years, and this is why he's great. It's like, I literally was vaguely aware of the person, and I just heard a speech, and it was great. I always kind of like I'm always more interested in that person's critique than
it seems untainted.
Don't come to me for like, is LeBron James good? I'll tell you he's the best. Yeah. He's the greatest. He's always the greatest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, LeBron James, the greatest player. He's the second greatest player.
No, he's not.
Plays in the Lakers, baby. That's all I care about. So, I mean, I'm a Lakers fan. That's the reason why don't come to me for Lakers advice. I'll tell you you're the best team ever. So,
okay.
Lesson number 1. Emphasize points of commonality to build rapport and connection. This cracked me up because when she says this, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, yeah, like none of these candidates humanize themselves on any level ever.
Yeah.
Except for when they do these weird patronizing, like, I love these candidates think they could say, like,
I was that little girl.
No, but, it's kind of like we were joking, no flame to this guy, but the guy, Jocko Willink, I think it is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like that, and they go, and they're like, and it's like, they're just like, oh yeah, like it's just like you have to just like, and it's like, dude, not everyone's just like the man who wakes up at 4 a.m., runs 3 miles.
If
like,
you got a problem, you have to wake up and face that problem and tear out that problem's throat.
My larger thing is, I think some people do kind of take for granted how unique they are, and a lot of these candidates go up there and talk about how, oh, I came from these really humble beginnings, and now look at me, I'm like a senator. It's like that's cool, but like most people aren't. Like. Yeah. Why talk about things we have? And that was a long rambling intro to what they say here. So the first 2 sentences of his closing statement immediately started establishing rapport and connection. I'm here with my wife, Evelyn, tonight. We have 2 young boys, Christopher and Damien. And the thing is, and she goes, I've only heard Yang speak a handful of times, but I've heard him mention more than once his wife cares for the 2 sons, one of whom is autistic and has special needs. People relate to that more than your journey to Congress. No offense. I am very we went to the
That's true. They relate to that more than your journey to Congress.
Yeah, we went to the First in the West dinner in Las Vegas, and Elizabeth Warren goes up there and she talks about, oh, you know, my father had a heart attack and we had hardship, so I had to go and get my law degree. I'm like, amazing. I'm very happy for you, Elizabeth Warren. 1, I know this. 2, I think your supporters who show up know this. This is an event for Democrats. And 3, I get that you worked hard and got somewhere. That's awesome. But it's like, I can't relate to you being a senator or a Harvard law professor. I can relate to you as being, you know, like, there we go. Like Andrew, he has a family. He has a wife and kids. I only know Elizabeth Warren has a husband because when they talk about her net worth, they combine them. That's the only reason why I know Elizabeth Warren has a husband. I think a lot of people can relate to being a member of a family. No offense. Anyway. So I'm not sure it's an accident. Leading with the most relatable elements of his bio are so smart. It not only helps him introduce himself to an electorate that barely knows him, but it also sparks... Again, I'm very aware of Elizabeth Warren. And I only know she has a husband because people have to combine their net worths. But it also sparks a real sense of connection with the audience. While others may come across as disconnected, wealthy politicians... Oh, really? Carden, do you think other people come across as disconnected wealthy politicians?
Other people, as in the vast majority, yes.
Everyone on the stage? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
It
Man.
was pathetic.
You know what's funny? You know who actually doesn't? A shout out to John Delaney. He doesn't come across as that.
And you know what's kind of crazy is actually Tom Steyer came across as less detached and disconnected than some of the people up there.
Oh, yeah. Then Elizabeth Warren, for sure.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren was so much more of an ivory tower elitist than even Tom Steyer, the freaking billionaire.
I don't want to recant the debate or recount
yeah.
the debate, but do you remember when Elizabeth Warren said more people should be in the military?
Oh, no, actually, I liked that. Was the only thing that I liked.
That's my point. She's not up there on stage to make you like her. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Republicans are like,
no, but I
okay,
think she was trying to
fine.
get out the purpose of mutual service. And also, I think
Okay, but,
people look at the country as how can I help
Like I
serve
said,
the country
I don't
as a
wanna-
whole when they serve
Yeah.
the country in the military instead of thinking, what can I get out of it? The government owes me something.
Okay, but strategically, it was bad for her. I can tell you that. People didn't like it.
Why? Is the left so psychotically anti? They're not anti-war now.
Well, no.
I mean, the
voters
Democrats are not anti-war.
Again, we're not going to go over the debate. The voters are, for the most part. It's not it's the establishment that is. The voters are. So that's,
I think military
there's
service is
no
good.
better way to show you're a disconnected establishment politician than to say, I want more people in the military. Because here's the thing. Like you said, there is an angle to it that makes sense, but there's also the angle of like why. And again, we're kind
I
of getting
can't
off
believe
point.
I'm fighting on behalf of Elizabeth Warren right now. Oh, I feel dirty.
My
but
point exactly.
I give credit
No,
where
no.
credit is due. I
Okay,
think
okay.
her the
Making my
intention
point.
of her comment was good.
Making my point.
Okay.
She doesn't go on stage to win over you in a Democratic primary debate. Are you voting in the primary for Elizabeth Warren?
Well, I would think that she would go on stage to win over patriots.
Moving on.
Okay,
Moving
fine.
on.
Moving on.
Contrast. During the debate, Cory Booker vigorously interjected at one point to remind the audience that he was the other Rhodes Scholar mayor on the stage. I forgot that happened. These people are ridiculous. No offense to anyone running for president, but oh my God. You want, again, what's more relatable? The fact that you have 2 children, one of which is special needs, and your wife helps raise them? Or, excuse me, there's actually 2 Rhodes Scholars mayor. Oh, thank God, Cory. I even like Cory Booker. Thank God he reminded us that he is indeed as elite as Pete Buttigieg. I am indeed also an elite. So what? The reported 450% Google search spike on the question, "Run as a Rhodes Scholar." Exactly. People don't care about this stuff, and they go on the stage and they act like, I'm gonna win over some voters right here. Actually, there's 2 Rhodes Scholar mayors, and everyone goes to Google, what is a Rhodes Scholar? It just reinforces how far removed the average American voter is from Rhodes Scholar circles. Imagine having to tell someone, you know that really elite. Like, the reason why people take pride in being a Rhodes Scholar, because it's an elite, kind of like small group.
Yeah.
Why would your average layman on the street care or know about your elite I always tell people, you gotta remember, not everyone cares about your dumb little club. People think they do. Like, for example, not everyone cares about your dumb little club.
Interesting.
Going way too long about this. Said obviously virtually everyone on the presidential debate stage is an academic, intellectual. Intellectual, I can't even say the word, that would evoke the highest levels of admiration. So it seems counterproductive at best for candidates to use precious debate time to point out how much more educated they are than the average voter. Yes.
Yeah, that's.
I just want to take a moment to remind you guys,
jab.
I am indeed smarter than all you voters out there. I just want to make sure it's on the record. I'm not only smarter, I have more credentials than you. I love people do that. They go up on stage and it's like, dude, why? There's a reason why some candidates do better when they just don't talk, because they're going to go up there and just be an elitist jerk and no one's going to like them. But the party likes the policy anyway.
Yeah.
So lesson 2, engage with, don't just talk to the audience. Another thing is funny she says that. Yeah, when does any candidate ever engage with the audience at these debates? Except for just not berating, but lecturing.
No,
them.
I can't
Lecturing
believe-
or sermoning is basically the extent of the interaction.
Yeah, and I can't believe there's not more audience engagement in these debates, because I just think naturally, if I were up there and someone were to ask me a question, like those moderators that ask BS questions, my first impulse would be like, that is the crappiest question I've ever heard in my life. How can you consider yourself a moderator?
And
then I would immediately want to ask the audience, like, is this what you came to see? Like, almost like in Gladiator, like, are you not entertained? I would be like, is this what you came to see? Like,
that'd be a big move. I'd like that.
I would just be like, I came here to talk about how UBI is going to change the way our society functions and improves our children's lives, our families' lives, our jobs, our education. And I just got asked a dumb question about foreign relations. Like I would immediately, like almost impulsively, go to the audience.
Yeah.
So I don't see how these seasoned veterans of politics don't do this. Like Biden, you'd think after having been through so many debates.
I can show you guys a little bit later. Maybe I'll show it in this video. I'll have the link. Elizabeth Warren recently was asked by, I don't believe it was even a supporter necessarily. I think just someone at one of her events, could be a supporter, someone put words in the person's mouth.
Okay.
And she said, but like, Miss Warren, didn't you send your kids to private school? Elizabeth Warren just goes, no, I didn't do that. It's like, yes, you did. Everyone, I believe, according to some sources, she was currently teaching at the school that was a private school she had enrolled her children in that she's so unaware of. She told a supporter, no, I never did that. So I think there's a reason why a lot of them, they have to, people know I have to put like a screen between my candidate and the audience. Or Joe Biden recently told someone to go vote for Trump then because they didn't agree with him. They're like, oh, I don't like Obama's border policy. He's like, why don't you go vote for Trump then? It's like, dude, maybe they will. And then how dumb will you feel instead of just trying to level with somebody? And like, it's crazy. Like, these elitists feel like explaining themselves to you isn't worth it. I don't need your vote if I have to explain myself to you. That is why they don't. Because getting into what you said here, and again, once again, you'll notice, Andrew Yang didn't ask with his hand raised how many people are Rhodes Scholars. He said, how many of you all are parents like us here in the room? Yeah. He didn't say, how many people here have a law degree? Oh, all of us on stage and like a few of you in the crowd. That's interesting. Yeah, we're smarter than like. He asked, how many of you are parents? So if you're a parent, you've had this thought. Maybe you've been afraid to express it. And it's this, our kids are not all right. Which, by the way, little pat in the back for us. We made a video the first time I saw him really give this speech.
Yeah.
Believe it was at a Democratic event.
We said it was his best one.
Well, we said this is going to be the messaging moving forward. I think it was less than a month ago because I think it was after the last debate. And here we go. It's
obviously Andrew Yang and Zach Grumman watched the show and are taking our free advice.
Or it goes the other way. It was such a good idea, even we recognized it was a good idea. One or the other.
One of the two. I prefer to be the horse that is pulling the cart. But,
just really quickly, let's go skim through this. They said, the opener includes me, and as a parent, I felt an emotional connection to his point in the initial question. Oh, you notice she didn't say, as a fellow Rhodes Scholar, I felt an immediate connection to Cory Booker. The initial question created a bit of suspense and almost forced me to listen.
That's true. The silence is golden.
Yeah. I can't think of a much more difficult presentation challenge than figuring out how to engender audience engagement during a crowded presidential debate field as a lesser-known candidate at 11:30 p.m. It's a really good point. But the technique is asking a direct question that the audience could relate to with a compelling emotional answer was a stroke of genius. By the way, I believe a band called The Offspring made a song called The Kids Aren't Alright. That was like a big hit like 15 years ago. Like, Dude,
Eminem did the same thing. It's like, why do you think they're eating up my albums like Valium? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So
this has been a common trend from musicians for a while. And in the arts. So in July, Democratic presidential debate, he similarly started his closing statement with an intriguing question and answer. Do you know what the talking head's going to talk about for the last debate? It's not that I'm somehow pulling fourth on the stage in national polling. It's the fact that I wasn't wearing a tie. So he goes through that. Then This gets back to my exact criticism of anyone running for president except for Andrew Yang and Andrew Yang. A couple of people too. I can top of my head, him. Don't talk above the audience. Wow. So you're telling me candidates going up there and talking weird, obscure inside baseball about Capitol Hill drama isn't good? That isn't how you win an election? By going up there and talking about gossip on Capitol Hill? Oh my God. As a strategy consultant with a top firm, I was taught to quickly assess my client's culture and then dress a half step above the client. Interesting. Our executives told us since we are billing them thousands of dollars an hour for our team's time, anyone should be able to immediately identify the consultants in the room. But at the same time, they wanted us to blend into the corporate culture and not unwittingly separate ourselves from clients by dressing too formally. Fascinating psychology there. Wear what they wear, but nicer, so they know you're better than them. But they know you're not like above them. No, you're above them, but you're not better than them. Like you're not in like a tux.
It's like you're within arm's reach.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not out of your league. She's just the coat.
Yeah, it's like he has a business watch too. It's just $100,000 business watch, not a $5,000 business watch. Anyway,
okay.
That is a power move. I'm wearing basically what you're wearing, but it all costs. It's a Ric Flair move. Ric Flair used to go up there and just talk about how much his clothes. Anyway, similarly, there's a reason.
Yeah, look at me. I'm in a $100,000 suit. What does he wear? Doc Martens and his underwear.
Basically, he was bragging about his gator skin shoes. He can't hold his gators down, baby. Anyway, similarly, there's a reason why many newspapers reportedly write for a late middle to early high school reading level. It similarly isn't effective to talk above people. Unfortunately, too many highly educated policy wonks are oblivious that their well-intended salient points are flying right over their audience's heads. This doesn't mean presenters should dumb down their presentations, but instead they should be conscious of their audience and make every attempt to speak with a parlance, vocabulary, and style that audiences will actually hear and understand. I like to talk to them like human beings. Is like something you have to sit down a politician and say, hey, look, not everybody, I know not even necessarily every politician reads all these bills and knows what's in them. So you have to kind of find a way to explain the gist that's honest. But no, they'll give you the end. As George W. Bush was elected, many pundits boiled down his appeal to a single word. He was a beer candidate.
Yeah,
I don't know
relatability.
People overlook this, particularly his plain-spoken style, sometimes grammatically challenged, which people found endearing. Indeed, they suggested the voters didn't necessarily gravitate to the most intellectual person in the room nearly as much as the guy-gal they felt they could have a joy beer with. How weird is it that people have to actually like you to vote for you? Isn't that weird? Yang used plain language, style, and content to speak directly to voters, and whether the audience agreed with his points or not, his delivery was undeniably easy to understand and digest. Yes, there's a reason why everyone's like, I wanted to. You'll notice Andrew Yang, he spoke the least. Other candidates didn't speak that much. Nobody was like, man, why wasn't Tom Steyer able to? Why didn't they give Tom Steyer another 7 minutes to talk? Because he was okay, but it wasn't like when Yang did speak, people were like, I want to hear more of this guy. So it stood out even more that he wasn't speaking, I think.
Yeah, this is also interesting to me, too, because you can definitely tell that a woman wrote this article because...
why? How?
Oh,
no, because I said so at the beginning, I guess.
Oh, no, because I'm a flaming sexist, and I'm about to tell you why.
Yeah.
No, here's why, okay? Because there's science behind this. When you study how females and males approach different problem-solving challenges, okay, there's been many cross-cultural surveys that have done. There's been specific studies, in fact, on war games, and that proved how men are more overt and women are more relational, right? What's interesting is she actually used that word relationship at the beginning of the article, and she said, look, when he opened up his closing statements and said, hey, I'm a parent, I immediately identified with him and I felt that relationship. So, she's definitely fulfilling the evolutionary trend that females have of, being relational. But this is good news for Andrew Yang because that's one of the demographics he's really struggled with. And if this author right here has, the emotional intelligence to say, hey, look, he's the closest thing to Bush's electability and relatability that I've seen for a really, really long time, that's actually a very good portend. Hopefully, that's a very good sign for future success with females. And personally, I think a lot of the reason why he struggled with the female demographic is honestly because not a lot of them have tuned in yet. Okay. And no, you can put all of your pencils down and all the feminist bloggers can chill out for 30 seconds. Okay. Doesn't mean that chicks aren't in the know. Okay. But I really think that a lot of very influential females, if you study the Latino vote, like what the abuela thinks is very influential in those tight-knit communities. What grandma thinks in the suburban home can very much set the trend for the political thought process of the family. Whether we like it or not, we all participate in groupthink in one way or another. All right. And these women that carry a lot of weight in a lot of these circles, they're busy. They're really, really busy. They got better things to do than just watch a bunch of policy wonks out snob each other. And if they do want to know what's going on, these debates have been so terrible, I really question the sanity of somebody that sits and watches them. I mean, the debate before this last one, we were literally joking in our live stream how we were making it to the end together.
Well, they had the what would it be? The October debate, I believe, specifically had, I think it was 100 minutes uninterrupted nonsense. No commercials, no breaks. Yeah, just 100 minutes uninterrupted. People standing on stage saying nothing. It was
absolutely hellacious.
It reached unwatchable. But anyway, we have a couple more points to get through.
Well, just let me finish my thought. My thought is that I really think that with the impeachment sucking up all the air in the room, okay, and the debates being absolutely unwatchable, okay, really only a lot of the kind of YouTube commentator, early adopters, like crazy insiders are tuned into politics, and except for the college interns, you know what I'm saying? I think it predominantly skews male. I would love to see an actual data set on that, but my suspicion is that it predominantly skews male. And because women right now have a lot better things to do than waste their time on this crap that the DNC is putting out that they call debates, I really think if he can keep up this style. And look, even this woman here, she said, I was about to tune out. I just proved myself right. She literally says, I was about to tune out because I got better things to do, because I'm a busy female. But then I saw his question and it brought me in. So I think that there's going to be a lot of females tuning in later on in the game because they got better things to do right now. And I think if he can keep this style up that Mrs. Brownlee, I believe it was, liked, then boom shakalaka. And I did just say boom shakalaka. He going to bring it back.
Alrighty, very interesting. Yeah,
you like that reference? That 1990s NBA Jam?
Not really.
Boom shakalaka. Ah, dang it!
I was never an NBA. I was never an NBA Jam guy. People like that. I never did.
I remember the big head code, so you could run around playing with the big heads.
I used to play it on my phone even up to a few years ago. It just never was. Anyway, we're going super long on this one.
Let's keep going.
We got to blaze through these last couple. This is a reinforcement. Remember, it's not about you. It's about them. We've been talking about this the whole time. Unfortunately, a politician's DNA too often oozes self-aggrandizement. Really. And that predisposition often encourages them to talk about themselves incessantly, really. But Yang seems to do the exact opposite. He tends to focus primarily on anticipated needs issues. She goes in, and so the thing is stuck out. While Booker forcefully reminds us he's a Rhodes Scholar, Yang's approach is quite the opposite. Ironically, because he doesn't share his bio as much, he graduated from a pretty prestigious law firm and went to he's no bum. Creates a sense of organic curiosity. But after his intriguing closing comments, I actually Googled him for the first time at 11:45 and was surprised to learn that he graduated Columbia Law and was selected by the Obama administration's presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship. Exactly, yeah. And authored 2 books. These facts surprised me not because they're out of the norm for a presidential candidate, but simply because I never heard him mention any of them in the handful of appearances where I'd heard him speak, and that's really what I wanted to focus on. Yeah, how many people who are watching didn't know that he was elected? He was selected as a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship by Obama. How many people didn't know that? How many people knew he was a lawyer but didn't realize that he actually graduated from Columbia Law as post-grad? He went somewhere else to graduate. Yeah. He has an impressive, pedigree no one really talks about. So they go through, and the last one, so I want to tie it with you because we're kind of almost done on this time-wise, but it says to be funny. Hands down, the funniest moment of the entire debate was when Yang explained his initial attempt to address broad societal problems. He explained, my first move was not to run for president of the United States because I'm not insane. Not surprisingly, the vote. And then, of course, there's the other line going through here, because this we can go through. I don't want to go too much because, again, it's important to be funny. Yes. I think
it's authentic, too.
And remember, even how when, I don't know if she mentions it here exactly, but even when it was like they kept asking questions, they asked Cory Booker like the 5th impeachment question in a row, and Andrew audibly laughs on stage. I think it shows in sense of humor as well. He's like, because how many people at home were like, okay, cool, we're talking about healthcare, and they go impeachment, oh my God. And then so I think that gets relatability. And again, we basically just spent 23 minutes explaining why other politicians aren't relatable, but Yang is. But what I really want to highlight is, it's one thing for me and Card talk about Yang all the time to say that. It's another thing for somebody who had no real interest in Andrew Yang, who was so moved by his closing statement, she admits that she went and Googled him for the first time at damn near midnight. So yeah. Just saying, this is what he does. So because I agree that I thought his debate performance was really good. A lot of people said there's always the controversy about his talk time. I always kind of err on the side of poor Andrew Yang, man. Everyone's talking about him, and he's in the media, and everyone feels bad for him, and everyone's saying, why isn't he talking? And everyone's saying, why? It's I'm sure that isn't benefiting him. It's not good to not get to talk, but when everyone takes notice, in the end, you probably win the war, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. And, so that's one thing about it. But at the same time, I did think that he was so on message when he spoke. It does help. Because again, yes, Cory Booker did speak more, but some of that was, excuse me, I'm the other elite mayor on stage. You know what I mean? It is more talk time, but excuse me, I'm better than you is what we want to hear.
I really like this article, and I'd be interested in seeing what else Ms. Brownlee has to say, because, her opening 3 paragraphs there were pretty much kind of public speaking 101. And I think she really, in a very concise way, summarized a lot of what I feel naturally about public speaking and what a lot of the science behind effective leadership that has been proposed by the psychological community says. So I'd like to see more of what she says, and I'm really curious to see any future articles that she writes about Andrew Yang and her reaction there, to him, and see if this doesn't really start helping him take off with the female demographic, because we know the two demographics he struggles with the most are African Americans and females, which are, massive chunks of the DNC electorate.
I think that's also quickly diminishing.
Well, I know, and hopefully it's, she's writing how it's diminishing, because she herself talks about how she was converted.
I think a lot of it comes from, and call it however you want, I think a lot of it comes from some of the communities Andrew Yang was really propelled from online.
Oh, UBI is going to be totally male dominated.
Well, not even that. I just think like the Joe Rogan audience is primarily white males, and that's where he got big. I think that's where it comes from primarily.
Not just males, but like UFC enthusiast males.
Yeah, but remember, it's a very popular show. Everyone watches it. But again, I would say the largest demographic of Joe Rogan is probably white male. I could be wrong. I would just guess that's where it came from. So I think just as he grows, because there's nothing about his policies that are unique to any particular demographic. So I think as he's just grown, he's growing in every demographic. He's not like, we're going to do a video about this. I'm actually going to mention it a little bit coming out here. He's not like Pete Buttigieg, where you look at a poll, it's like, wow, he got 19% in that poll, and they show it broken down, and then African American support is literally zero. I've seen multiple Mayor Pete polls over double digits overall at 1-0 in African Americans. It's crazy, but we'll talk about it a little bit. Anyway, so that's going to wrap up. It's going to wrap up the Forbes story, guys, here. But we had another topic I want to roll into for you guys. So this one, it's going to take a little bit to explain, so we'll go through it.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there is a political... Is it a political show even, or is it a late night show? Samantha Bee.
Yeah, she's horrible.
Oh, it's called politically... No. It's called... I'm not going to get into Christmas with Samantha Bee. I think she's funny sometimes. Not all the time. Anyway, they have an app we're going to get through. Currently, Andrew Yang leads in the app. We'll explain what that means in a minute. However, you'll notice that Elizabeth Warren quickly gaining ground. Now, a lot of you people probably say, okay, what does any of this mean? So, we're going to go through this. There is a game. It's basically an app, I think, and it's actually, I think overall it's a fun app. So I have put up for you guys right now is the rules to the app. It's fortunately a lot of the good information about the app actually is in the app itself, so I'm going to kind of read off it, but I'll have the rules for you. So the app is called, I want to get this right, the Full Frontals, that's what it's called, Full Frontal Samantha Bee. It's like Full Frontal Samantha Bee's primary thing. I can't find the full title. I'm going to put the article for you guys. Regardless. Full Frontals are multiple Emmy nominations, blah, 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 blah. They go through. Holy cow. Anyway, regardless, here's the app. It's a game. Totally unrigged primary. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oof. Some great quality content there. Anyway, what is it? It's an app. So you earn points for your favorite candidate's team by answering daily challenge questions. So you click on today's date in the road to Iowa. There are 5 challenges in there for you to complete. Things like trivia, captioning photos, expressing your feelings. Some challenges will give you points only if you get the answers correct. Well, some will give you points just for submitting. Every point you earn goes towards your candidate's point total. We'll get to what the points mean in a second. So you cannot win unless you're one of the nearly 20 Democratic candidates for president. The winner is the candidate with the largest number of points on January 29th. They will win the cash collected in Sam Bee's political swear jar. So that's what we're fighting for here. You'll see Yang's doing pretty well. I think I have a picture here of what the game looks like. Yeah, here we go. They'll ask you a question like, Pete believes that one issue poses a threat to national security and the economy. What is it? And you answer, and it's kind of
climate
change.
It's kind of
fun. But what really got me interested is how this game works. Because again, it's Full Frontal Samantha Bee is just like a political.
Let me guess. There's
show.
Republicans on Samantha Bee's app.
No, it's Democratic primary app only.
Oh yeah, I know. It's because Samantha Bee. She would. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it's also the topic is the Republicans in it. Yeah. You could argue that because that's the point. But no, what interested me is I want to get into the fine print here because it sounds kind of weird. Because also, I don't know if they mention it right here. They actually don't. Another way you can increase the point total for your candidate is by donating money.
Oh.
So here's the fine print. I believe,
of which she gets a cut, I'm sure.
So money. So Sam Bee's political swear jar is a fund set up in cooperation with Democracy Engine PAC. Collects individual donations from players like you. When you donate to Sam Bee's political swear jar, your card will be charged immediately. Thank you. Thank you for reinforcing. I'm so glad that they told me they will immediately charge my card. If you sign up for monthly recurring donations, your card will be charged on the same day every month. The candidate with the most points at the end of the game wins the entire fund and the donors that go with it. Interesting.
Yeah.
No. In other words, if your candidate of choice wins and chooses to
this
accept,
is like an Act Blue
they
that
would walk
Samantha
away with
Bee
a lot of
just
cash
runs
and thousands
herself.
of it. No, you missed the last 2 words.
No, I get it.
No, did you get all of it?
Yeah, they also get the donor and the funds. Yes,
that is crazy to me.
So it's like a miniature Act Blue.
Yeah,
in which winner takes all.
Yeah.
But Samantha Bee runs it. Now,
Well, no, because the difference here is this is for the primaries. This is before
yeah,
primary.
I get that.
So the thing is even for, I don't know, man. It's not a big deal. It just is, they get more than the money is my point. It is advantageous to say, I have X amount of donors. Like, you get more than just the money. And it also means if you donate to support Yang and for whatever reason Elizabeth Warren wins, you have now you're now officially a Elizabeth Warren donor on record.
And I do have to say that, like, this is something Democrats do far better than Republicans. Creative ways of making politics fun, involving youth, outreach, so on and so forth. Because, if you've already reached the max to donate to Andrew Yang, how else can you contribute to the campaign? You have to go through PACs. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And this is a way to have fun, at least, while you're giving more money to your candidate. I never see anything like this coming from the Republicans. And I just think that is why we fail.
But remember, also at the same time, I'm trying to pull the exact article up. I didn't have it up already. But a lot of 2020 candidates are saying, we're not going to take big donor PAC money. We're not going to take outside funding. We're not going to. I literally just saw a Bernie Sanders ad on YouTube today saying we don't have any money.
It does pose an interesting question, because what if Samantha Bee does come to you and say, hey, I've got $4.1 million.
They're estimating about $250,000.
Okay, fine. Let's just say, I was just throwing a number out there. Let's just say I got, $200,000. Yo, let me see. Elizabeth Warren, you just won our app that people had to be politically involved in and answer questions to and stuff. It's not just some major corporation giving you some kind of
I agree.
big payout.
And it's bad PR.
And then she's gonna have to be like, oh no, I say no to your money.
Like I said, I think it's one of those things where it's like I said, that's why we have juries and judges. I think the actual common sense part of a campaign goes, yeah, but this is different. This isn't ExxonMobil funneling $5 million to us. This is a grassroots funded game, and we kind of look like no fun.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden you have a Breitbart headline that is like, Elizabeth Warren swears not to take money from PACs, then takes $200,000 from Democracy Engine Inc. PAC.
So you have a spine.
Hypocrite.
And you say, yeah, but this is not money from Toyota. This is money from grassroots supporters, and we're getting young people engaged in politics. So overall, it's good for me to take. Like in real life, I get it. If we were all computers, that would happen. They'd go to fund the money tour and they'd be like, oh, sorry, we don't take it. But in real life, you go, okay, it's like a game, it's fun. Not kids, but young people are getting politically active. Mm-hmm. I'll take the I don't know. But like you said, you brought up an individual point. Maybe they will say, my principles, I am so principled, no one can even have fun on my watch. That's how principled I am. Let's say that is what happens.
Nobody can have fun.
If that is what happens, we get into technicalities. So, every donation to Sam B's political swear jar is held in a fund set up in cooperation with Democracy Engine. All donations received prior will go to the candidate who receives the most points. In the extremely unlikely event that the winner of the game declines these funds, which is their own possibility, your donation will be redesignated as an earmarked donation to the Democratic nominee for president in 2020 as selected by the delegates at the DNC. We'll also write their name down in our burn book. All contributions to Sam B's political swear jar received on or after the 29th will go towards Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight PAC unless they go somewhere else. I love that. It will go to Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight PAC unless Samantha Bee publicly, unless it just goes somewhere, unless she says I'm going to do. But that's what I wanted to highlight here a little bit, because all of this, I'm not going to clown on Samantha Bee for making a game. I think it's actually kind of fun. But I have a big question about all this kind of, on Twitter, I was tweeting about it. A really big question is, like, just like the fact that we have here, what we have is we have a TV host made an app. Yeah. That app is used to raise money for political candidates, but there's a game portion of the app.
Yeah.
What happens if the game portion, I'm not accusing him, but what happens if that isn't on the up and up, and it is a way to just embezzle money from other people and fund the money to a certain candidate? Well, what would be the oversight? I honestly don't think that's what's happening at all.
Look.
But what if, like, who oversees that and who enforces?
You have to declare all this stuff. The second you engage in political money, okay, you have to make certain declarations. And you can look up the FEC filings of, what was it, Democracy Engine Inc. PAC?
No, but before you start, I have a question I want to pose to you, because I think it's along the same lines you're saying. What if all they do is they tailor the questions that are being asked to benefit a certain candidate? Or what if they only ran ads to download the app? to certain candidates' most likely demographics, and they didn't do anything.
So they would be doing literally what the Brexit people did.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing overtly nefarious here, but at the same time, it's getting people to donate to Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, pick whoever's. I'm not saying. I don't believe that. I think that costs too much money and it's just not worth it. And there's better ways to get money to your candidate.
So they're pulling an aggregate IQ, is what you're saying?
No, my larger point, though, is it is interesting to me. Like I said, I doubt that's happening here. It doesn't make any sense. But if theoretically it did happen, what would how is that oversighted or enforced? You know what I mean? Do they come in and say, we have to make sure that you're inputting fair, what if they just input the questions you answer that are mostly tailored to a certain audience? How is any board actually oversee and enforce that? Because then the money just gets funneled through a PAC somewhere.
Yeah, but don't forget,
PAC's gonna cut a check and
but PACs have wild amounts of freedom. You can set up a Friends of Ron Paul PAC.
My point exactly. It'd be very hard to invoice. I think this is. I'm almost sure it's up and up because, like I said, the money, it's just not enough money. Trust me, dude, if Viacom wants to get a lot of money to a candidate, they do it. They don't need nonsense. It was interesting to me because this is what's kind of the reason why Andrew Yang talks about this. We're off topic a little bit, but it reminds me a little bit. The FEC isn't involved in this. I think the SEC is, but in video games, they have something called loot boxes. Basically, if you guys are familiar with baseball cards, trading cards, you buy a pack and maybe the good ones in there. Yeah. Well, basically, digital versions of that exist in games.
Okay.
And the thing is for the longest time, but in the United States to this day, the odds don't have to be posted anywhere. They could be lying to you about the odds.
Okay.
And it actually is just gambling for children. I mean, a video game came under fire recently because they posted a commercial for a basketball video game that was literally just highlighting the gambling aspects. My point is, there wasn't bodies to... a little kind of aside, when the claw games, you pick the stuffed animals up, when those first came out, there was a legal issue. There was no odds you would win. They could actually be rigged against you to never win, and there was no law. There has to be a board. Right now, there's no real board oversight. Seriously, who sits at a desk and says, it's my job to make sure that apps are not being cleverly used to funnel money through games to various political PACs to then be sent to candidates? Whose job is to make sure that isn't the up and up? I'm sure it is here, but in other situations, maybe it wouldn't be. And who sits at that desk?
To me, I think
who gets that email?
But to me,
you know what I mean?
To me, the free market would naturally control that because it'd be pretty obvious.
No, it wouldn't.
It would be pretty obvious.
I just explained to you could do it non-obviously. You just incentivize a certain audience to download the app. You incentivize a certain audience to perform well through questions you ask.
But what's going to happen is people will see that, hey, there's this trend that the people that succeed with the Samantha Bee app all of a sudden are doing better. Then they're going to analyze the Samantha Bee app, and they're going to want to make their own version.
It's a one-time thing. It's one. Would it really be that crazy? I'm telling you, would you really?
No, it's not that crazy. But I doubt Samantha Bee is that smart.
I'm not saying her, but what I'm saying is, my only point is, and we're getting a little bit longer, so I want to talk. I think it's really interesting, important to keep an eye out as these campaigns move forward and forward and forward. We're going to find more sophisticated ways of funneling money to them. I see through the Yang Gang online all the time. People saying, "I'm maxed out. How do I contribute?" And there is, for example, you're maxed out, you can contribute to the campaign. This is a little thing that happened recently. A bunch of guys got together, or guys and girls got together, and they got a house funded in Iowa for a few months for 10 people to stay at and canvass, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's one way you can get money not to the campaign, but to the effort. You know what I mean? The internet's making it easier to do that. So I'm wondering who actually sits at that desk and gets that phone call. We want you to look into this thing. It looks shady. Who gets that? Because like I said, you can look at something like this app and
I guarantee you it's FCC
it's all in the up.
I guarantee you
no, it is. But does the FCC regulate the fairness of the game inside of it? I don't know. A lot of that stuff isn't regulated yet, and it hasn't because there isn't. Nobody's ever picked up that phone in their life because there hasn't been a job for it. So we're going to have to make them. That's what I wanted to highlight. I think it's a good example to highlight. There's nothing. It doesn't sound shady to me, but it does sound.
I know. I think it's FCC regulated, not FEC. FCC regulated.
No, that stuff really isn't. I'm telling you, dude. You can literally, and companies have got busted for this, develop a video game, and you can use psychologists to tell you how to get 10-year-olds to gamble. And then you could rig the gambling against the 10-year-olds and encourage them to, and then what you do is you move the money around. You don't buy these loot boxes with cash. You buy them with power bucks. Power bucks are roughly $85 to $1 because that's confusing and you can't do it in your head. And they do all this weird stuff so that they could steal money from adults because their kids are hooked on gambling and nobody regulates it. Just now people are waking up. But what I'm saying is there's going to be a political side of that. Dude, if people are like, once the you can't target children stuff gets busted up, like the overt, obvious, yes, this is immoral, the more gray area, less moral versions of this emerge. Dude, when are we going to have loot boxes to donate to presidents? I swear to God, we're not going to be that far off loot boxes for donating to presidents. Like, what if a candidate did this? What if a candidate, because there's a take-home version of it too. Like, I think they were actually called Loot, was it called Loot Crate? And what it was, it's called Loot Crate. So, company called Loot Crate. And what they do is you give them your money every month, and then the stuff that they can't sell at GameStop, they put it in a box and they give it to you. No offense to anyone who uses it, just more or less what actually happens.
Okay,
so,
cool.
What if Andrew Yang, for example, had the Yang box, and the Yang box is $200 a month, and it's actually a pack, has nothing to do with the campaign. And in your Yang box, you could get an autographed Andrew Yang hat, autographed Andrew Yang t-shirt, 2 copies of his book autographed, and there's 4 of these special Yang boxes put in. The rest have roughly $100 of campaign merch, so you're kind of giving a $50 donation. Now, what the stuff you're paying for is largely leftover stuff from campaign events they don't know what to do with, so they just sell it to you marked up in a little gambling scheme where they'll do it with comics, they'll call them chase variants, same with records. And the whole thing is to get you to get the riled up, to get the early investors. People are going to be scalping these things, you know what I mean? And it creates these little markets. But all of a sudden, seriously, if he made 10 hats, one of a kind, or not 10 of a kind, like 10 were made, special limited editions, and he put them in these Yang boxes. And the only way to get this hat is to get the good Yang box. And it was through a pack.
It'd be like Magic the Gathering
so you
cards.
could open it, exactly. And you could,
there's
if you
one
want,
rare.
If you want, you can give us $500 to our pack every month and get 5 Yang boxes. That's where we cap you. But if you want to make another account, go. Like, when is that going to happen? Because here's the thing. You're, again, kind of tricking, or basically, the first time a president figures out how to trade, how to hit your dopamine receptors and get your vote. I swear to God, once they figure that out, how to really get those dopamine pumping when you support them, it's over. Dude, they've done what they've done. They've got 12-year-olds hooked on gambling from their iPhones. Like, it's over once a politician figures out how to do this.
You remind me of that conversation we had on the live stream at the Las Vegas rally for Andrew Yang, where we interviewed Noah.
Oh, yeah.
What's his last name? Noah what?
Top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
I can't remember, but Noah, the professional gambler.
Poker player, yeah.
Albiol. What does Val Kilmer say?
Poker's not really gambling as much. Poker's more gaming than gambling.
Okay, but I'll be your Huckleberry. That's
Doc Holliday does says. Yes.
Doc Holliday, that's it. So Andrew Yang's very own Doc Holliday, Noah, ended up saying something really interesting that I really like, that had kind of changed my way of thinking about how I think about Andrew Yang. Was he said he was attracted to Andrew Yang because this guy is spouting, basically societal politics like it's, quote, game theory, and I thought that's a really interesting way of talking about how Andrew Yang approaches things. So it doesn't surprise me if that game theory will evolve so much that it actually becomes a game. And knowing how anybody that likes betting will find a way to bet on anything, yeah, it's inevitable. I don't look at it as how, I just look at it as when.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how quickly you go from, I'll put a few bucks on the Lakers, to like, Korean women's basketball is on right now. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm saying is that, but here's the other thing: gambling is being legalized across the United States, especially sports gambling. This is the other thing I want to talk about. So, sports gambling is being legalized, and this is just a really quick aside. One thing that is not legal in the United States, and it's kind of like there's some funny angles to it. Here's when will sports betting be legal? Production. Sorry, the wrong article. But one thing I thought was really, really, really funny. Remember, Yang wants to make online poker legal, but when we're talking about this is, for example, in Vegas, I can go to Las Vegas, I can put $100 that the Lakers will win. I cannot, in the United States, place a bet that the Washington Wizards head coach will be the first head coach to be fired. I can't place that bet.
Oh, interesting.
I can go online and place it. I believe. So it's very interesting to me.
So you're allowed to bet on scoring alone? You can't bet on
There's
events?
certain human things you can't. Because here's the thing. The reason is this. Hey, it's not official yet, but in like 2 weeks they're going to fire him. He'll be fired. Don't tell anyone. And you go to Vegas, $50,000 that this guy gets fired into it. You know what I mean? So that's why
they're worried about just basically informal informally perpetual insider
There was
trading.
an NBA ref who rigged. He didn't rig basketball games. What do you rig basketball games? He only got caught because Vegas is like, we're not wrong this often. When this guy refs were always wrong, we are not wrong this often, and they looked into him. So again, to go back, what I want to talk about the Samantha Bee thing is the app itself is really interesting, but I think this headline's great. She's gamifying the primary. Once someone figures out how to gamify their support, I'm telling, dude, you think I'm crazy? If he showed the coolest math hat, and you could only get it in this rare limited edition special box, and you had to.
It's like the golden ticket in Willy Wonka, man.
The first presidential candidate that really leans on that. Now, I'm sure there are rules about gambling, but this is not quite gambling.
It's almost like a game show. It would be like almost game show regulated.
Yeah, I mean, but what? I don't know. It's crazy to me. But because like you said, the way PACs work, you could do a gambling scheme legally. Because, by the way, it's legal to sell loot boxes and say, oh, by the way, 1 in 100 of the rare thing in them. That's legal. Even though it's hitting on the same thing. They're moving toward, like I said, loot boxes in video games, for example, they're moving away from because it's gambling for kids. Anyway, that's the lesson we got to say about this. Because I'll talk about gambling for kids and gambling in politics forever. But the next thing I wanted to do, I saw this video and it kind of gave me an idea. So, Michael Bloomberg, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar, exists. Even less of you familiar, started running for president. He recently announced but he kicked off his run.
Dude, this is painful. Even just look at how he's slouched in that chair.
No, did you hear his answer yet?
He looks like my grandfather the first
yet?
time he saw a smartphone. What?
You gotta hear the answer.
Okay.
So I didn't interrupt, but you gotta hear the answer. Check out what future president hopeful Mike Bloomberg said.
Keith wants to know, what's my favorite pizza? Thin crust, very well done, even burnt, with pepperoni on it. Isn't even close. Keith wants...
You call that pizza, man? I don't know. But
that sounds hideous. That's like what... Dude, if you ever buy a hot and ready from Little Caesars and it's been in the heater too long...
Was he the mayor of New York, too?
Yeah. Oh, that is just a mortal
You live in New York City. In New York City, would they say that that's pizza?
Oh. No, what's interesting is there's a lot of people that are very snobby in New York City about making sure you reference it as a pie because it's not a pizza. No, you got to understand, there's this whole nomenclature. The second you step foot on Manhattan that you got to get used to, man.
I had New Yorkers jaw my ear off about that. They have the best water for pizza dough. That's why they're pizza.
But they do.
It's crazy. No,
the water that comes out of the tap in New York City is phenomenal. It's better than the Arrowhead drinking water that we got here. And it's because it comes from that mountain range in northern. I mean, it's gorgeous. And the pizza dough is awesome. But I got to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of thin crust. And this was my heresy when I was there. I loved the Napolitana, like the thick crust.
Yeah.
So when you go to the restaurants, you could get the thick crust. I liked it. I'm not a thin crust New York pizza guy.
Anyway, with this.
Anyway, keep going.
Before we clown on this guy too much for his pizza preferences, he is a billionaire. I thought it'd be fun to go through presidential 2020 candidates and just check out their media tabs and see what is the media tab of your average 2020 candidate look like right now. So I believe the first we have is Kamala. This one stuck out to me as very odd. I'm not going to clown her too much for this, but it is funny how the fluidity of Kamala Harris's ethnicity is always fascinating to me.
Okay.
She is a proud black woman up until she's now a proud Indian woman.
Yeah, I was like, up until it's convenient to be Indian.
Well, it always cracks me up when they talk about because they always talk about and it's like, because I think theoretically it would be correct to say Cory Booker is the only African American on stage, right? He's the only I believe that would be more.
I don't even know.
My point being is
so emotionally uninvested.
I even showed you guys this shit. Anyway, Kamala met with Mindy Kaling to talk about Indian food. I just thought it was interesting because it is funny. You won't always hear. And again, no, I'm not going to clown on her for this. It just is funny because when I saw this video, I was like, oh yeah, I know she is actually she's Indian and I believe Caribbean, right? But it is funny how she always tries to play up her ethnicity for whatever's the best at the moment.
Yeah, it's like a miniature Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, exactly.
It really bothers me, and this is why I'm so emotionally uninvested in racial identity politics, because, I mean, if I were invited on a TV show by this big Polish superstar, I wouldn't say oh yeah, I'm a proud Polish. Actually, no, I would say I'm a proud Polish person in the sense that I'm very proud of my grandfather's heritage of having escaped and fought the Nazis. But I never met him except when I was 3 years old before he died. And I've never met any of my extended family because the Iron Curtain cut us off. So I'm an isolated Pollock, in the West Coast of the United States of America that would love to get to know his heritage more, would be honored if I were invited to a Polish event. But I'm not going to go on TV acting like, this identity I was literally beating Joe Biden over the head with in the first debate, saying you're a segregationist, is all of a sudden taken backseat to this Indian heritage I have never, ever publicly spoken about. You know what I'm saying? It's this grifting that's so Elizabeth Warren-esque. It's like, what?
I don't want to clown on it too much, but like I said, it is kind of funny. How many of you watching right now actually knew that she is Indian, right? Because it is not how she portrays herself until it just stood out to me as funny because I was just going through a media tab. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Kamala Harris actually is like Indian and Jamaican. Like I don't know why she doesn't talk about that very much. She doesn't. Yeah. She does a little bit, but she talks more about just being like generally woman of color. It's just funny to see her get more specific here. No flame. Just thought it was interesting. Now, I'll get some flame. Don't you worry. No. We'll say that for last. This again just stuck out to me as very interesting. So we're going to go to Bernie Sanders now. I didn't know this. Apparently, Justin Long is a Bernie Sanders surrogate.
Dude, no way.
Yeah, Justin Long. He's here with another surrogate. By the way, probably a good time to bring up that again, when people were saying, what does it mean when MSNBC wasn't allowing Andrew Yang surrogates on air when he complained about that? What it means is Andrew Yang's a busy guy. He's running for president. So campaigns like Bernie Sanders will have somebody like this Iron Stash, this Mr.
Why is it
Randy Bryce, who will show up on your behalf, echo your campaign's message. You trust him. He'll say what you want to say. And it's like you're there, but you're not. So you can campaign elsewhere. They were not, according to Yang, we're not allowing him to do that. And just showing you how important surrogates are. We have 2 Bernie surrogates in an ad right now, basically explaining why it's important to be surrogates. Like, it's a real thing. So I thought it was kind of funny to bring that up. Again, Bernie's got the celeb endorsements, man. Celebrities. John Cusack recently came out. And John Cusack came out against NBC because they're unfair to Bernie. So which they are, but still, it was just funny.
He came out against MSNBC, but instead of coming out against MSNBC on behalf of
Yang, it was Bernie.
Yang was Bernie. Yeah.
So Bernie does have the celebrities. Now we'll get to some good ones. I swear that one wasn't that funny, but I'm being legit with you guys here. I'm not going through 5 weeks to cherry pick the best thing. It's literally just what top of their media profiles right now are. This is what really inspired the segment. Truly, I said it was Bloomberg. Yeah. My man, John Delaney, candidate for president in 2020. Released a video. By the way, I gotta say, great minds think alike. It's my favorite way. I don't do 30-inch platforms.
This is so dad joke. This is my favorite way to. It's endearing.
It's my favorite way to warm up my workout as well. Is since lots of people jumping into the race, so I decided to do a few sets of 10 box jumps, and the 30-inch platform was a warm up to my workout.
Dude, look at that, man. He is crushing it.
He's in good shape.
And look at how ripped. He's got the Goldbergs. Look at his shoulders. Yeah. And look at his lats with how thin his waist is, dude. This guy is like, he's more ripped than my juice and PE coach, man.
Can I show you something else?
Yeah, what?
In typical John Delaney fashion, listen to what happens when I turn the audio on in this video.
Okay, what? Oh, he's not even grunting.
No, but there's like no music. And he left the audio. It's literally just the dull thud of his feet on the thing. You know what? If I have more time today, I'm gonna re-edit this video and post a better version. Like, play some music in the background. Just literally music in the background, or edit it a little bit. But anyway, I wanted to give my man John Delaney, who, by the way, for those of you asking, he is indeed still running for president. We saw him speak at first in the West. He is indeed still running for president, John Delaney.
Wow, dude, John. Now,
Delaney. This is what I want to get to earlier. I'll start bringing one of the polls up. I thought this was funny. Just going through going with the media tabs. What are some of the recent stuff being posted? Pete Buttigieg, dude, he's got at least 15 black women supporters in this country, at least, right? They're on one picture with them. It is pretty funny how
he's still trying to act like he's like Mr. African American.
No, here's the thing with him I kind of want to do a video talking more about this. I always feel weird just because I'm not African American. I'm not going to speak on behalf of a community I'm not a member of, but I can say
How are you not a member of it? You're American. I'm sick of this racial identity stuff.
It's not even racial. It's just little
we are citizens, United States of America. We're going to talk about things that benefit citizens.
Cultural groups exist. My point being.
Well, yeah, cultural groups
I can't tell you why people don't like people. I can tell you this, though, that I'm literally seeing polls where he's at 14% overall and it's 0% in African Americans. Like, he polls dead last with them. And his campaign has by and large refused to directly address this. There's the controversy where he made up black supporters by basically saying, if you don't reply that you are not my supporter, I will assume you are.
Yeah.
Which is predatory, by the way.
Yeah.
There's actually law. You can't send me a letter and saying, if you don't reply to this letter, I'm assuming you're going to send me money. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, now you owe me money. You never reply. Like,
Yeah.
you can't do things like that. So he did that. I just thought it was funny. I was going through his media. There wasn't a whole lot there except for this picture. And it's like, of course, because his campaign has not came out and said, look, we had maybe a little bit, but I have not seen that big moment where people just comes out and says, look, I understand. I understand that certain communities really are like, they don't like him, and he won't come out and address it head on.
It's because
it's more just, I mean, like, look, this is what I think's funny. This is what elitist politicians do. They look at their poll numbers and it says, wow, Pete, amongst African Americans, you poll really low, right? And then he goes, well, that can't be true. Let's send out my thing, and I'll send out a letter showing everyone that I have African American. It's like, dude, the people exist in real life and they don't like you. Like, that's
Yeah.
you can't show someone a document proving that their opinions of you are invalid. They're like, dude, what do you mean?
the other thing is, it's like,
no, and I think it's funny that, like I said, I thought it was hilarious that this was basically what he's posting in his media, because he's trying to, like, he always wants to measly kind of sides, like, see, look, I got African Americans,
And
and
the
you
thing
don't.
is,
You know you don't. Can you address it, please?
yeah, it bothers me because I think, do you really think, Pete Buttigieg, that I'm this stupid?
Exactly.
Okay, so here's my first problem. Here's my very first problem with his whole Frederick Douglass plan. First off, I think it was boneheadedly brilliant that he named it after a Republican. Frederick Douglass was a diehard Republican. But second, all right, is you were the mayor of South Bend. And I believe that you want to help the African American.
Read the screen real quick, speaking of.
No, I saw that.
Cool.
I believe that you want to help the African American community. I believe that if you were elected president, that, it would be a top priority for you. Okay. But at the end of the day, the only way I can gauge your leadership skill in terms of dealing with the African American community is how you've done it before in South Bend. And that was a failure. And second, you are just a mayor of South Bend. So don't act like you've really actually put a lot of thought into what a national African American program would look like. And like, you've got this national coalition. Bro, you were a national figure until 5 months ago. And don't tell me in 5 months, all of a sudden you've developed a deep, long-standing relationship with every single African American leader out there. It's a joke. And everybody knows this show is very affectionate towards the African American community. And we have made all kinds of suggestions about how Andrew Yang could help out with the African American community. It was on October 16th. We did one of my favorite videos where that guy from Missouri called in, right? But the third thing I got a problem with Buttigieg on this is, like, do you think we're that stupid? Do you think that we think within 5 months you've developed a national coalition? And then do you think that once you got busted for this assumptive sale you did on all of these civil rights leaders who apparently also were like endorsing Joe Biden over you, do you think we're going to be so silly as to think that was just a mistake because you took a picture in a fundraiser with a bunch of African American women? Like, I don't know. It's that kind of Karen, my best friend is black
Well, hold
kind
on.
of thing,
I'll just recount for people who didn't actually see the story all the way. This is cracking me up. Business Insider, Pete Buttigieg falsely Buttigieg's campaign accused of improperly using names of black leaders in support letter amid struggles to attract African-American voters. The facts in this, the allegations of this are absolutely hilarious. Mayor Pete's presidential campaign falsely said that 3 prominent black figures in South Carolina supported this Douglass plan for Black America, according to a report from The Intercept. In late October, Buttigieg's campaign released an article praising the plan, citing an open letter on behalf of Columbia City Councilwoman Tamik Devine, Rehoboth Baptist Pastor and State Rep Ivory Thigpen, and Johnny Cordero, chair of the state's party, Black Caucus, in addition to more than 400 Douglass plan endorsers, right? But the Intercept found none of the 3 people actually supported Buttigieg as the candidate, and 2 of the 3 never endorsed his plan, and 42 of the people on the list are
weren't
actually
even
white.
black. Yeah,
So this for those of you guys saying, like, what's so weird about this photo? What's so weird is Mayor Pete won't kind of really address that controversy too head on and direct, but he'll kind of try to skirt around it and see, I went to Atlanta, people like me. It's like, dude, look at the polls. They don't. Anyway, tell him Mayor Pete. And the last one was Joe Biden one. There's not a whole lot here. It's just more Biden being Biden. Again, being honest with you guys, if they don't have a whole lot of juicy stuff in their media, is what it is. We have Joe Biden officially on the ballot. It's all in there, man. We appreciate it. And there we go. What do you think about Joe Biden?
I just think, looking at this, I mean, these people seem like they're running out of steam man. And I just see so many of these just white nor'easterners who have engaged in toxic identity politics, so much so that we call them white nor'easterners, right? And that the grift of the Democrat Party
wasps,
has
right?
been, wasps. The grift of the Democrat Party has been to use the activists that have engaged in toxic identity politics to their advantage. And then now it's no longer advantageous, and it's created this toxic monster that's eating its own and cannot be supported. And so I look at Biden as kind of just like the epitome of that establishment, you know, and I think a lot of people do. And now, you know,
I refuse to believe his campaign's real still. I still believe he's just going to be like, never mind, I'm done.
Yeah, it's just like unbelievable. It's like when you look at the media, Joe Rogan said it best. He said, I think that a lot of this clickbait, he says, it just sounds like the dying cries of a dying dinosaur platform. You know what I'm saying? And then when you look at all these DNC candidates, they're all in their 70s. They're all people that are not even boomers. They're just like so deep into the pre-internet generation. They were straight up congressmen 20 years before it happened. You know, you just literally, kind of like Joe Rogan said, the mainstream media is dying. It almost just seems like the leadership of the Democrat Party is just literally dying of natural consequences. And nobody wants to nobody can come up that's not like a psychotic leftist activist.
I think what we're larger seeing on both parties in this country is we've kind of seen
Rebellion against the older generation.
We found the question basically to how long can you have just cronyism and what's it called when you give your kids a job? Nepotism. How long can cronyism, nepotism, and unqualified people be put in positions until the whole thing falls apart?
That's a good way of putting it.
I think we're finding out about now
Yeah.
with every party, both parties, entire establishment crumbling. Remember, if it wasn't for Trump being president for 4 years, the Republican establishment would have been the one that crumbled, and the Democrats would have galvanized around them. Like,
I don't know, man.
dude, there's characters like Mitch McConnell and Leslie, whatever the name are.
They're bad, but they still do better
I'm
in
not talking about
terms
bad.
of.
They were probably people who were on the way out. If they were the minority party, they would probably be on their way out.
I see what you're saying.
They were not necessarily popular figures that, you know what I mean? Now they got a boot from it. So I think that's all I want to wrap up. I just think, like you said, we're seeing the death throes of the establishment. Yeah, I think we're kind of finding out how long you can have people that are self-serving, crony morons who are just there because they're somebody. Like I said, the amount of people that, I guess that's why Warren, getting ahead of myself, but I think that's the reason why Elizabeth Warren, when we saw her, she spoke about how she came from humble beginnings. To us, that means nothing. Most people come from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
But when you're in Congress, you probably look around and realize that's unique. The only problem with Elizabeth Warren is we don't care. We don't trust any of you people for the most part. But to her, she might actually notice that this is crazy. Why are you a senator? Oh, my grandfather was a governor. It's like, what? That's not an answer. You know what I mean? But like, I think maybe that's the angle she comes from. Which I'll give her some credit for. But again, I don't care because guess what? I can't relate to you becoming a successful lawyer and teacher and then senator. I'm happy for you. I think it's cool you did it. But it's like, getting back to relatability just one touch, I think that's where it comes in, just to wrap it all up. That's all I got to say. Carden, it's the first time doing this. What'd you think?
I think it was great. And I was just going to say one last thing before I end. That
Please.
actually, I really think you just explained or helped me realize why that graph of political values is diverging so much and why we're so politically divided. Because as the moderates that used to bring us together and the leadership of the parties got more cronyistic, they also got less competent. And when people need leadership and they seek good leaders, and as the center becomes rotten and the core gets bad, then the competence in actually moving people and being active and getting people out to vote is going to come from the fringes, the special interest groups, the far left and the far right and so on and so forth. And people will naturally gravitate towards that competence and leadership, which is going to split the population in both directions towards the organizations that actually get something done on behalf of people. Now, yeah, maybe their ideologies are poor and they're toxic, but that's what happens when there are no moderates, there are no problem solvers. Do you like that plug? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let us know what you guys think. There was a lot that we talked about today. Make sure you subscribe to us on Twitter. We do a lot of our announcements on Twitter first at PSP Radio 1. Also, if you want to contribute to the channel, make sure you check out the PayPal link in the description, or you can pick up a hat at problemsolverpolitics.com. And no matter what, make sure that you hang out with us when we stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays. Tuesdays, we do our call-ins on Twitch, and Thursdays, we are right here on the tube of you. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.